Joining us now, Rhode Island Senator and member of the Judiciary Committee, Sheldon Whitehouse, who alongside Senator Dick Durbin just sent a letter to Chief Justice Roberts requesting a meeting to ensure Justice Alito recuses himself from January 6 cases. Senator, thank you for being with us. Do you expect that Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice, will meet with you?
We'll see. We certainly hope so. As the Chief Justice, he also serves as the chairman of the Judicial Conference, which is the administrative body that oversees the judicial branch. And that body is a body established by Congress, and it enforces laws passed by Congress. So he'd be in a peculiar position if he were to say that Congress can't speak to the chairman of an agency that it established about how the agency is implementing laws Congress has passed. So I think we'll be able to get by that, and certainly hope so.
How have you felt about Chief Justice Roberts and his communication with you and the committee, his operation, his leadership of the Supreme Court? Do you think he's an honest operator?
I think he's in a very difficult position, and I think that he has let Justice Thomas and Justice Alito, he's cut him way too much slack, and they seem to have gone completely rogue. So what he has been doing hasn't been working, and that's one of the reasons we want to meet, to see what it is that the Judicial Conference and the chair of that conference, him, the Chief Justice, can do about justices who have really gone rogue, are violating the rules of the Supreme Court very plainly, are violating the ethics rules for all federal judges, are violating federal laws. You just can't put up with that. You wouldn't put up with that in any agency. My God, how about the United States Supreme Court?
Your colleagues, many of them Republican, don't think this is a big deal. What do you say to them about this?
Well, you know, we went through this when we got the subpoenas for the billionaires that have been funding the billionaire gift program that has been propping up the lifestyles of Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. They just immediately went to the defense of the court, fought against even finding out what the facts were, and nobody was really willing to defend the proposition that a very wealthy individual can buy a Supreme Court justice a $250,000 motor coach and never get the principal paid back. And maybe the justice not only didn't declare it on his disclosure forms, but maybe didn't even declare it on his taxes and has cheated on his taxes. Those are questions that no person in their right mind can really overlook. So I think once you get through the immediate effort to defend a very right-wing Supreme Court and you get down to the actual merits, these are arguments that are very hard not to accept.
So what has been the process? I mean, have you found that some of your colleagues have been more willing to sign on to these investigative measures that you want, that want these questions answered? Because when we were interviewing them, as you saw in the lead up to this interview, they again think that this is, you know, overwrought and blown up by the media.
Well, originally, Senator Graham was working with me on trying to figure out what was wrong with the disclosure at the Supreme Court. They were not disclosing massive gifts that members of Congress, members of the executive branch have to disclose. And it's only when the charges became so significant that all of that peeled away and we went back to a fully tribal defense of the court. And I think it's hard to overlook the role of a bunch of right-wing billionaires who funded the long, long effort to capture the court and get these right-wing justices onto it, who are funding front groups that are telling the justices what to do case by case, and who are also funding the Republican Party, its super PACs, the big organizations that support it. I think it's a tough position for Republican senators to be in when it's their donors behind the whole thing.
It kind of sounds like you're saying that because of the way that these justices have gotten on the court and the influence that these billionaires have and these foundations have, Federal Society, et cetera, which you're alluding to, that the decisions of these justices aren't exactly valid. Are you arguing that?
I actually have argued two things. One, that there is a pattern that is impossible to explain or justify of these justices following what they're told to do by these billionaires and the front groups through which they operate. And second, that some of the decisions they've made stand on propositions that are so factually false that they can't stand any longer. The factual predicate, the factual basis for the decision is absolutely irretrievably wrong. And we know that now. And so those decisions should fall simply because they stand on false facts.
You say they should fall, but how do they fall if they're not going to fall with the Supreme Court? They're the highest body.
And there's the problem. The Supreme Court won't go back and clear it up.
So should people follow those decisions?
Lower courts to say,
Should people follow those decisions? I mean, the court functions only because there's trust in it. That's the only way, because we decide to bestow them that authority. If we decided to take that authority away because we no longer trusted the court, where does that leave you?
Well, we are a rule of law country and we should follow the law. But one of the ways you can follow the law is to go into the lower federal courts and challenge the Supreme Court decision's adequacy. And if the lower court or the circuit court agrees, they could simply say, you know what? You're right. That decision stands on this factual proposition. I know that factual proposition to be false. Therefore, that is not good precedent, and I'm not going to follow it. That is the rule of law way of solving this problem.
Really interesting. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you so much for joining us, as always.
Thanks for having me on.